Hi, this is Shannon Port. And welcome to the Art of the Feminine podcast. This is our first podcast that we'll be doing as a live stream video on YouTube. And so I welcome you to this. It's no longer a call, it's a video, but it's good to be here. And I'm really excited about using the videos as a new platform for the Art of the Feminine podcast. And so our topic for today's podcast is the soul's journey through the underworld. And we're going to be talking about sex, death and rebirth, I should say, power, personal power, and we're going to be looking at all of those things in the context of the Scorpio new moon. And so the Scorpio new moon is taking place on October 30th on a Sunday. And so we have a few days to prepare for that. And so I thought it'd be a really nice time to bring in all of these Pluto themes and talk about how they're affecting our lives right now. And really place them in the positive, with the new moon being a really wonderful opportunity for us to plant new seeds and to commit to this next year, this next cycle of the Scorpio, this next Scorpio cycle. And so let's see, first, if you're new to the podcast, I'm doing things a little different. And so I'm kind of deciding how it's going to work. I normally do this on an audio call. And so I have, so you can't see me. And so I have 6 to 8 pages that I write right before the call and I read. But since it's a video now, I'll be doing it different and doing it more in a little bit more organic way, where I just talk and let it come to me. So I'm sure that it's going to grow and change as we continue along with these podcasts. So let's see here. The Art of the Feminine podcast started 4 years ago. And our first year, we took the whole year to look at the wisdom of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And we started right at the winter solstice in 2012. And so that was a really powerful time on the planet, as you know. And so a lot of people were talking about these things. And so that's when we kicked off this podcast. And all of the podcasts are archived on YouTube. This was originally an audio podcast on iTunes. And so it primarily was received through iTunes. And it was only last year that we moved all of the audio over to YouTube. And so it's now all archived on this YouTube channel. It hasn't been in circulation as much because we uploaded 50 or so podcasts at one time, but they're all on this channel if you want to go back and look at some of them. The second year, we worked with the 22 archetypes of the major arcana. And so I call them the 22 archetypes of divine consciousness. And so we did a 1-hour call for every one of those archetypes. And those are all, they can be found on this channel. And I say that because what we're doing now is we're going to be working with the moon cycles, but we're going to be doing it through the lens of the archetypal energies that are governing the cycle. And so if you're new to the archetypes, if you're new to the sacred tarot, you can find them and just kind of, if you're curious, you can listen a little bit and learn about them, and that will give you even more information for what we're talking about in this podcast. The third year, we did the new human sexual paradigm. And so we took a whole year, and a lot of my work is in my writing is about healing sexuality. It's all built on the foundation of the archetypes. That's where my background comes from. And so after we did the archetypes, we went into healing sexuality on the planet and healing the relationship between the masculine and feminine on Earth. And so we went fairly deep in those calls, and they're all on they can all be found on this channel. And now that brings us to 2016. The topic or the theme for the whole year is called Alchemy of the Goddess. And so we've been working with themes of alchemy and looking at how this the feminine energy, the creative feminine energy, both above and below and within us, is working right now for our awakening of consciousness and for our what we also know as our ascension. And so I'm sitting here, I'm realizing I have a 21-foot window right here, and I'm looking out onto the goddess herself. I have a really beautiful scene outside my window. So if you see me connecting, it's because it's kind of like she's right there, and it's been so beautiful to have this space in my new office. And so so that brings us to our call today and to this podcast today. All right. I want to see if there's anything else I want to say about that. Yeah, we'll be meeting before the new moon and before the full moon every month. Because it's the moon really governs the inflowing waves, the cosmic waves that come in are carried in by the moon. They come through the sun, but the waxing and waning of the moon brings in the ether and brings in the Akash. It brings in the substance that we are made of, and the substance that it's the creative feminine substance that creates form. And so in working with the incoming energies and the outcoming energies, and knowing how to plant our deepest desires at the time of the new moon, can really pick up. It's like a snowball going down the hill. It starts out small, but it picks up more substance, and by the time it gets to the full moon, it's this great big snowball. And that's exactly what the cycle is. You plant a seed, and then it rolls and rolls. It picks up the waxing energies, and then it's ready to be birthed. And so, all right, we'll just take a second. I'm just going to take a second and ground in the information for today. We'll be looking at the soul's journey through the underworld, and that has a lot to do with the themes that surround Pluto and Scorpio, and has a lot to do with power. In fact, I wanted to just call this podcast Power, because really that's what it's about right now, is that we as individuals and we as a humanity are learning about power. And we learn about our power through how we use our energy, the choices we make with everything we do, with the way we speak, with the way we interact in relationships, with how we use our sexuality. That's one of our fastest sources of power, comes through the desire force. It's the desire force, and it comes through our body, and it's our goddess fuel, I like to call it. It's her fuel. And so having the deeper understandings, which are huge themes of Scorpio, are what will inform us of our real power. Because we can't truly live out our spirituality until we have our power. And we have our power, but until we know how to use it. We have to know how to use it. And there's a lot of suffering right now on our planet, and there's a lot of hardship, and there's a lot of people are doing their personal work, and it's tough stuff, and it's messy sometimes, and it gets us down sometimes, because it feels like just we have our own work that we have to do, and then there's the whole world. There's so many people that are not empowered and that could use the help of us that have started to wake up and see what needs to be done, and use our power and direct our power in a way that serves the whole. There's people that are counting on us for that, because they may be in a different part of their journey and not able to actually do for themselves right now. And so power is a huge theme. It's so relevant to all of us right now. I work one-on-one with people. I do a lot of mentoring, and I do one-on-one, and then I also work with a lot of couples. And what I see from my own experience and know from my own life as well is that when we most feel rage, when we most feel anger, when we most feel upset with our partner, when we most are upset at work, when we have financial things that are difficult, it has to do with power. It has to do with the rage comes from not feeling that we have the power to do what we want to do, because we've got this desire force inside us and we want to operate it. We want to carry out our heart's intentions. And more importantly, we want to carry out our soul's mission. Each one of us has a reason that we're here. We all have a very, very particular reason for being on the planet, for being in the world, for being on this earth. And if we're not connected to that, that can be very, very frustrating. Before we wake up, we have all this inner urge and all this energy. And if it's inverted, if it's going in the opposite direction, it can make us mad. It can all these personality disorders and dysfunctions you see have to do with the inversion of the true trajectory of the soul. And so, and many of those disorders and different kinds of things we see are using power in a way that's inverted. So many of those kinds of archetypes have power: the sociopath, the narcissist, I lost the word, but the tyrant, the dark leader that is not looking out for the well-being and not really truly interested in thriving on earth and in thriving in humanity. That's an example of power that's inverted, and power that is exactly the opposite kind of power we're going to talk about today, because that's power that's drawn from fear. And it's very real that we can draw power from fear and act powerful in this world. But in order to do so, we have to take from others. It's a taking mentality, meaning I have, you don't have. I'm stronger than you, so I can take from you. And that comes from fear, from not understanding the truth that there is enough for all of us, and that those who have can help those who don't have. Those who know at a certain time in their journey can offer wisdom or information to those who are looking for it. We can never push anything onto people, but when people are looking for something and we have it and they come to us, we can help serve in that way. And that's real power. Real power is when we're able to do what we need to do, when we're connected to our soul's mission, and when we can stand in the face of adversity, of things falling down around us, and we can hold ourselves in our center and say, things look grim right now, but I know who I am, and I can stand here in truth and honesty and not kill myself. Like the scorpion. So one of the symbols of Scorpio is the scorpion, and it's the lowest. It's the first of the three. The scorpion will self-destruct in the face of chaos and fear. It will take its own life, and that is the power, the beginning stages of power, not knowing what to do with our own power, and so having to take power from ourselves. But real power. Real power comes when we have, when we've looked at our dark. And so that is what we're going to talk a little bit about today. And so when we decide that we are going to look at what's inside us, even the good, the bad, and the ugly, and those things that hurt, those things that are buried within us, and truly, truly begin to see ourselves, that's when we start to talk about real power. And so in that way, nobody can take that kind of power from us. We can have there are many influences in our world that are trying to distract and pull us from that work, because the truth is that until we do that work ourselves, we'll never really have that power. We can be spiritual, we can be kind, we can love. We see it all the time that before we have our power, we fall deeply, deeply, madly in love with another human being. But if there's an imbalance and we don't have our power in that love, our love can be manipulated and used by another human being. And we've all experienced it in either a friendship or a personal relationship where we thought we had power because we had so much love, but we didn't know how to stand in the truth of our own power, because perhaps there was something else that we needed to see about ourselves to truly have the connection of power. And that's why this work, it's so worth it to take the journey and to really, really decide to look inward and know who we are. When we know what our own dark is, and when we can see our own stuff that we're carrying, and we've all had so much of it for many different reasons, then we get to start talking about being truly powerful in our life, and then the circumstances around us will start to change. And this is not to say that some of us took on a lot, and we definitely came in here to go through the underworld in a very big way before we were able to harness the power of all the goodness that's buried there. But when we do it, and we're getting very close, that kind of power is it's infinite. It's not finite, it's infinite. And that kind of power it goes on eternally. And we'll look at that a little bit. So, all right. Let me see. Yeah, there's so much rage, and there's so much compulsion and anger and addiction and vanity and narcissism in our world, and people just wanting to consume other people. They can't get enough of taking in other people without actually having done the work to know who they are. So you can you can grab from this, from that, from this person, from that person. You can do it sexually, you can do it on a material level, you can even do it intellectually with knowledge. You can grab as much knowledge as you can, but it will never satisfy. It will never connect fully until the heart is open, and the heart can't be fully flowered until there's a powerful it's like the flower. It's got to have the power force that has to be underneath it to hold it up. And so the work of doing this alchemy for spiritual purposes has to do with being able to take some of that anger that's there for a reason and channel it into creativity, divine creativity. And we're going to look at how Scorpio teaches us just that. So, all right. So that's a little heavy, but it's real. It's personal power is certainly, I feel, it's the biggest thing. If divine love, and we talk about at Art of the Feminine, we talk all about divine love. It's all about divine love. And many would argue and say, no, it's not about power, it's about love. But divine love is power. Human love, it can wax and wane, it can be romantic, it can come and go. As we all know, we've fallen in love with people and said that we love you forever, and watched it fade and go away. And the saying goes that real love can never die. And so if the love wasn't able to go through things on one level, it hadn't really reached the level of divine love, which is pure power. And so that's why in order to birth divine love, we have to know about our own power. And that's what Scorpio teaches us. So we're going to, in this podcast, we're going to look at the archetypal energies that govern. We'll do it through the moon cycles. The information and the content that comes onto these will be valid even after this moon cycle, because we're just going to be talking about energies that are within all of us. And so the information that comes about those, that's streamed in about those archetypes, is relevant all the time. However, we'll be looking at it in the context of this period. So, new moon in Scorpio, October 30th, very close to Halloween, very close to Samhain, the Celtic holiday, which begins the season of the dark season. Halloween, All Hallows Eve, the celebration on many levels of the dark, and even those some of the darker aspects within us. That's what Halloween is about, and so obviously it's misused in many different ways, in terms of rituals and summoning up the dark for the wrong reasons. But the idea of understanding that the dark is there is very powerful, and so this new moon is aligned with those energies. It's aligned with Halloween. It's aligned with Samhain, the beginning of the dark season. After the harvest has come, now we're going into winter, and we're going into the dark season where we really go within. So Scorpio, by the way, the archetype of Scorpio is key 13. It's death in the sacred archetypes. 13 is Scorpio, and it is the Hebrew letter is Nun. And Nun is the fish, it's the potency, it's the seed. It is, Nun is both the masculine and feminine seed in reproduction, and it's the seed, the spiritual, the divine seed within us. Both are addressed in Scorpio, and so Scorpio, this card 13 is very powerful in alchemy. It's one of the most powerful archetypes in the 22 major arcana. It represents a stage of alchemy that's very, very powerful. I believe death along with strength or lust, which is Leo, the sun. So we've got the sun in Scorpio, are very powerful in alchemy. All right, so at this new moon, we have the moon, the new moon, the high priestess, conjunct the sun, which is the key 19, which is the sun, and Mercury is there too, the magician. So at the time of the new moon, we have the magician and the high priestess together. Mercury is conjunct this. I believe this Scorpio new moon is extra powerful, and I'll tell you why I think that. I believe that there's been 3 years of Scorpio where we were just going through it on so many levels. Now remember, so Scorpio, even if you're not a Scorpio, the archetype of Scorpio is operating in all of our lives. The archetype of power, the archetype of sexuality, of sex in its transformative vibration and its transmuting vibration. The archetype of personal power and the power we have in the world. It's definitely, we all have it somewhere in our chart. So even if you're not a Scorpio, this moon is very powerful, and you'll intuitively feel what part of your life it's working for you. So so for about a couple years, we had Saturn went through Scorpio. 2013, I think it started in 2012, 2013, 2014, went back in retrograde in Scorpio in 2015. So depending on where you experienced that, it was very, very intense. Saturn going through that sign was absolutely making sure that any of your dark that you're not allowing yourself to see, any of your themes around power, where you've misused power, and where you've taken too much power over others, or where you haven't birthed your own power, that was sure to come up for you on some level while that transit of Saturn was in Scorpio. It was huge. So Saturn recently has kind of cleared out Scorpio by doing that long transit through Scorpio and then retrograde in Scorpio. More recently, in 2016, Mars was in Scorpio for longer than usual. I think it was like 6 months, but it went through Scorpio into Sagittarius and then retrograde back into Scorpio. And we were all feeling that too, because of all the other alignments happening too. There was, Mars being in Scorpio, it was a continuation of what Saturn had done. Again, bringing up themes of rage, of power, of misused sexuality, as well as the sexual force. Um, um, Mars in Scorpio, yeah, can be very angry. It really ignites it, and it can really inflame things. Whatever hasn't been dealt with when Mars was going through, it added gasoline on the fire by putting Mars in there, and added some aggression. It could have added some aggression in carrying out your healing, whether it was that you needed to express your power and so you had to get aggressive in order to get it up and out, or whether it was repressed anger. And it can manifest, power can manifest both. It can manifest in a negative and positive way. When we repress our power, oftentimes we have to go through a crisis, like a crisis that makes us so angry or fall apart so much that we have to get it out. Things fall apart, but then that's the beginning of the birth into our power. And then we have to kind of pick up the pieces, you know, make amends wherever we destroyed something in our life, and learn how to get to that place without having to go through that negative experience. So Mars went through Scorpio. And now just recently, Venus just went through Scorpio. So we had Mars, we had the Emperor, we had Venus, the Empress, and Saturn. And Saturn is the world in the sacred archetypes. It's the world, and it can be the weight of the world, and that's what Saturn feels like sometimes. So now that we've had all this clearing happening in Scorpio, this year we're ready for Scorpio for all of us. Our power is ready for a rebirth. Absolutely, because there's no way that you could not have felt those things in your life on some level. If you just think about where they showed up for you, something has cleared. And so it's a fresh start now. This new moon in Scorpio is so beautiful, and it's ready for, I believe, the collective as well as the individual, for us to make a new commitment to power. Make a new commitment to how we use our word, because 13 is also known as the Christ force or the Christic force. In the esoteric teachings, it's the power of the word in its alchemical power. Learn how we speak and how we cast a spell with the words that we speak, because that is alchemy, and that is also one of the great powers of this archetype of death. Our words bring death and rebirth all the time. Our words either empower us or disempower us at every time. So when we're learning how to connect the heart with the word and the depths below, all of the dark that we've transmuted, then our word becomes a force. It becomes a force of nature, and it becomes the Christic force, which is that divine love, because divine love is a power. It's different than we think of love. Real love, divine love, is a huge power. It's like the power of the sun blazing through. So this new moon is a time, and this is one of the things I really wanted to say, that this new moon is connected to us committing to our power and committing to looking at our dark. Don't run from our dark, because when we do that, we have rage inside of us, because we know there's power that's gone untapped. We know that we're angry. We know that we don't have what we really need to make it happen. So many spiritual people that I work with, very, very spiritual people, and meaning really, and people, I don't mean just people who are into what we call spirituality, but people who live really good, live in their goodness, and people who really genuinely have the best of intentions for wanting to do the best they can, to have good relationships, to make this world a better place, to raise their children in the frequency of love, and to do to carry out and do the very best at what they're here to do, are dealing with a lot of blocks because there's still something inside that needs to be cleared. And we all have it, and that's the purpose of this work. That's why we're doing it, because we want to get to the bottom of it. Many people who haven't started doing this work are it might appear that things are going smoothly for them, but they haven't even gotten hit yet. So most of humanity, and I wrote something down about that. Oh, I also want to talk about the elections too. Most of humanity is living from the inverted power, meaning they have to live on the taking energy. Most of what we see, what we see in this earth that seems powerful, is misguided power. It's power that counts on taking from others in order to have, or it requires misuse of emotional energy, meaning we use emotional energy and rage and force or aggression in order to feel better about ourselves. That's power that hasn't yet gone through. That's kindergarten power. It's kindergarten power. It hasn't started on the spiritual journey. We have to look at our dark. We have to. We can't. I have a really good I don't know if I have the quote here, but I just read a quote by Dion Fortune, who wrote Mystical Kabbalah. It's a powerful book. And she talks about in Malkut, which is the goddess, which is the earth, and the daughter, the holy bride, on the tree of life. It's the very bottom. It's the nadir of the tree of life. It's the bottom. The soul, as it descends, and these are the wisdom teachings and the esoteric teachings, but as the descent of the soul comes in, it has to go to the very bottom. It cannot, she describes it as a yacht in a race. A yacht cannot go halfway through the race and not go around the final buoy. It can't go homeward bound. If it wants to stay in the race, it will be disqualified. It has to go all the way around that final buoy, circle back, and come back up. And she described that's how it is on the tree of life, that Malkut, this kingdom where we are, the denser vibration where we are, in the consciousness that we are living right now is very much the dense vibration of Malkut, of the kingdom. And we can't start to turn around and ascend until we've done the work here. The alchemy would be incomplete. And so even as spiritual, I think she quoted someone else saying, you can't, even as much spiritual truth as you have, you can know all the teachings, all of them. I'm just looking around at my library. I have thousands of books, and you can know them all, but until you have gone around the buoy, you won't be able to go back up. This is very much in alignment with Scorpio. Until you've gone to the bottom of the barrel, and until you have looked at the part of you that's holding the most weight and the most pain and the most sorrow, the part of you that's the most repressed and that generates the most anger and the most victim consciousness, because those are things that are inside us that we have to clear. That part of us, that's the nadir. That's where there's the most adversity and the most chaos. We have to go in and do the alchemy. And Scorpio teaches us how to do that, because the noon is the solar force. It's the seed buried in the dark. And when we go down and do that work, we come up with the seeds. We come up as the risen bride and the risen Sophia. And we have done this alchemy, and we are now able to live in infinite power rather than this finite power, which is a taking kind of power. So I like that a lot, thinking about how there's, it's hard, because when we're on the path, sometimes we know it up here before we've lived it. And so we think, okay, I know it. I know what I need to do. I know what I need to clear. But they say, and even the yogic teachings, the Eastern teachings, the hardest thing to see is ourself. The hardest thing to see is our own dark. It's so hard. And we definitely have all these things coming at us to to make it much harder. We live in this world of forces. We live in a world where there's a lot of negativity out there that wants us to not do the work, that wants to just, as long as we keep, we stay in the sensual pleasures, we just don't have to go down there, because every time we start to go down, there's another muse that we could have sex with, or every time we start to feel our pain, there's another great, there's more wonderful food we could eat, or there's a great wine we could drink, or there's another country we could travel to, or whatever it is. Whenever we start to feel the pain, the physical world kind of says, no, 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 you don't have to do that. You can just pleasure, keep the pleasure coming in. Not to say from the point of view of these teachings that pleasure is bad. Pleasure is very good. And Scorpio teaches us how, but we all know this. Something tastes so much better when it's in truth. The sweetness of the taste of truth cannot be denied. When you've done the work and you've really earned it, meaning not earned it as in you're somehow not worthy, but earned it on the vibrational level, meaning you are the thing that you are with. You've become that thing. It tastes so beautiful. It's the sweet taste of union, of divine union. And that's what we're meant to enjoy this world. Taurus is opposite Scorpio. Taurus on the wheel. I'm a Taurus. Taurus is the, well, it's Venus as the earth, and as the light in the earth, and as the beauty of pleasure and physical creation, because it's so divine and so beautiful. But if we get too distracted with it and we don't go around the buoy, we end up it's like you overate, or you overdrank, or it's that feeling, maybe you've had sex with somebody and it was such a high while it was happening, but afterwards there's a low. And I hear that all the time. It doesn't matter how great it was, if there's not love, and if there's not respect, and if there's not wisdom in that union, it will deplete. And that's a secret. And people, you can keep grasping it, but eventually the Shakti force will turn on you, because it's a power. Sexuality, like we see in Scorpio, it's a power in it. And the wisest souls know how to use it, how to use it in our own life, not only to actualize ourselves on the planet, because we're meant to be powerful in the world. That's another thing. In coming into Malkut, we're meant to be powerful on this planet. We're not meant to just say, oh, it's just Earth. There's something bad. A lot of religions tell us that. Don't worry. Do what you got to do to stay afloat here, and it's all coming later. The alchemical teachings tell us the exact opposite. You're not getting out of here until you've done the work. So we can know it up here all we want. We can know the wisdom. We can talk about it. We can preach it, but we see it all the time. People who are preaching the wisdom getting hit harder than anyone, and I know that because I've paid my dues, my own dues, in when I the different levels of coming into this work. There were different initiations. Once you start saying, and I tell this to my students and my mentors and all the time, once you start acting like you know something and that you can give this wisdom, you better be certain. You better know inside the universe is going to make sure that's true. And so. It's like there's this balance of sharing, but also having to do the clearing in your own life, and it's heavy work. It's a lot, but we can feel it each time we've gone through a new cycle. We know that power is real, and that the words that we speak are getting more and more aligned with our bigger bodies, with our bigger self. Our whole self, our infinite self, not just this little ego that's down here saying, I can do it, I can do it. The ego's great. The ego can accomplish a lot, but it self-destructs. The ego is the scorpion that eventually is going to kill itself, because it's not aligned with real power, and it's mad. The ego is angry because the ego knows that it's a false power. And so the ego can only be happy for so long before it has to medicate. It can be happy, but then all of a sudden the addiction has to come. It can be happy, but then all of a sudden it has to dominate somebody else or seek power by taking from someone else, because the ego can only feel validated if it's taking power or medicating itself or pretending that it's something bigger than it is. This real alchemy is we're meant to work with the ego and swallow it up and make it part of us, so that that power of the ego is now part of the bigger power. The feminine does this work in 13. That's why this is Alchemy of the Goddess. And I was really excited that to do this video about the Scorpio new moon, because the goddess does this alchemy. It's the divine feminine creative power that in order to build our bigger self and transmute through 13, this is the number of her. She has that power to regenerate and build the bodies. We're building through our dark and understanding our dark. We're building our greater self in this world. And so we have to let that process happen. As you can see, she can't do the alchemy unless we look at our dark. It involves a little bit of pain, and it involves some honesty. And so that's why, and it involves changing. Okay, this is it. It involves change. It involves change, because death in the wisdom teachings is change. Death doesn't always mean we die and leave, but it means we change. It alchemizes. The one thing we can count on in life is that everything changes. Everything comes and goes. Relationships come and they go. They're there like a cloud passing by, and then they're gone. Even finances wax and wane. There's a big incoming, and then sometimes there's an outcoming. Everything that's built up in this world from that kind of power will eventually change and go the other way. It comes in, the tide comes in and comes out. The archetype 13, death, is about change. And so learning how to ride the waves of change and the pain and suffering that sometimes come with change. It's like growing up. It's like growing up. My son is growing up right now, and he's 11. And so watching, the changes that come at that age, it's a reminder that we go from being one kind of human being to going through this period where everything changes through our hormones. We go through a different part of ourselves is strengthened at that time. And there's a death of what was. And clearly, as the mother, you get to see the changing of the child from one thing to another. And especially when the child's a very powerful old soul, you can see that they have to go through this period of integrating the energy of this world, the dark, so that we can do the alchemy. So let me see what else. Just knowing divine love is really power. So key 13 is the Empress working through the magician. And let me see if there's anything else about death. There's a lot, and there's a lot more on the call that I did about death. But death. Literal death. Literal death is also part of the alchemy, because a literal death of somebody we love can also take us to that place of alchemy. That place of having to face a loss is a kind of death. It's a literal death. And that is one of the ways that we experience this energy as well. And hopefully we don't have to experience too much of it in one lifetime. But losing someone that we love very dearly is one of the deepest ways to take us into the very bottom of our soul, and to have to look at our own life and what it means to be alive, and what is missing in this picture. that we still need more information on, so that we can understand the infinite connection of love when we love another human being. Love is the alchemy too, because love is, when we love and when we have a relationship, we invest our heart. And it's only when the heart is deeply invested that we can go into the deeper levels of alchemy. If we never get to that place where we're really invested and understanding love with another human being, we won't experience the sacrifice that comes with love. Now, obviously, there are paths. There are many people who will come in a lifetime where they're not meant to be. They're meant to do spiritual work on their own. So this is not about saying that everybody has to be in partnership. But if you've come for partnership, you have to be in partnership. You have to eventually go as deep as you can. And we live in a world that, because of the influences of the outer, that people are considered disposable. When there's love, it hits the wall and we're like, I'm done with that. I can't be bothered with that anymore. You know what? That looks better. I want to taste that now. It's that culture of pick and choose whatever you want, the flavor of the day. There's an alchemy in it, but it's a different path, and it is still on the inverted path, and it's still learning before it rises, and it's not connected to the heart in the way we need it to be in order for alchemy to happen, in order for the rebirth to happen. So in the archetypes, the lovers work through death, and that's why relationships are so powerful when we look at Scorpio, because the lovers represent, as an archetype, represent not only our inner sacred union of masculine and feminine, but they also represent how we discern relationships and how far we can take a relationship. Can we go through the death and rebirth process with another human being? If it's our lifetime to do so, we'll do it. And it's profound. It's one of the paths into ascending and awakening. The final realization of that path of the lovers going through the alchemy in key 13 is key 20, which is judgment, which is also the archetype of Pluto. So it's really rebirth. It's the last judgment, with which on the positive side is the rebirth of the soul. So we go through this love relationship either on the outer or within ourselves. In the true alchemy, we need to do both. And then we go through the death process of looking at the dark through another person and through our interaction with them, cultivating love in the process of that, even in the process of the darkest work, as best we can, cultivating love, and then being reborn into the higher. The key judgment represents the higher astral. So it represents, Pluto really brings us rebirth. Even though Pluto drags us through the depths of the dark and the mud, Pluto will give us the rebirth if we do the work. So I'm going to start to close out. I'm just going to think if there's anything else. There's a lot going on at the new moon also. Right before the new moon, we have, I'll just mention that Uranus and Mars are squaring. Mars in Capricorn. Capricorn is the sign of the devil, but it also represents the patriarchy on Earth. Mars is there squaring Uranus in, I believe it's exact tomorrow. Uranus is in Aries, the sign of the emperor, and a sign that Mars rules through the emperor. So these two energies, Mars and Uranus is the awakener and the fool in the archetypes, are something's going off because it's happening at the new moon in Scorpio, and we're talking, and that's a lot of male energy there too, with Aries and Capricorn, very male. It's talking about birthing a new, I think it's birthing the divine masculine, rebirthing the divine masculine, because Scorpio is where a lot of our dark has been stored, and a lot of our misuse of power on the planet, let's face it, is in controlling other human beings, in our misuse of sexuality, in selling the human soul as making it for sale as just an object. We have a whole culture and a whole underground culture built on that. It's huge. And that's related to those ideas of those energies and the devil archetype in Capricorn and all of it. So we've had this cleaning of house in the past few years. Now is the time to do that. Now is the time to make at this new moon, to make a really deep commitment to understand. That's the other thing I want to finish saying. In order to do the most good in this world, we have to look at ourselves. When we first start to awaken spiritually, we get a hit. And the universe gives us some stuff. We start to get creative. We start to put our stuff out in the world. People might recognize us. They might come to us. Things are really great. Everything feels spiritual. Everything's great. It's a high. And then right as we get into it, then we have to stick with it, because then the more initiations start coming. And it's like, okay, you've walked through this door. You've crossed the threshold. You're on the ascent. You've gone down. Well, no, let's say you're right down in it. But now as you begin to prepare to ascend, it's going to bring with you a few things that need to still be looked at. You know where you're going. Your heart's, and once you make the intention, you're good to go. But now it's a matter of refining and really seeing what you had to carry, the wounds, the patterns. If you understand through the lens of understanding that you've carried many things from different lifetimes, and you can look at it through that lens and understand that there's been a lot of different lifetimes we had to suffer and experience things that were less than loving and less than light-filled. And there's been times when we inflicted pain on other people in the same way. And so we are having to look at those things before we can fully go. That we are unstoppable once we have those things. Now, there are some forces on the planet right now, but they're operating from pure consciousness of power, of fear. Power and fear, power that's operating from fear will be disintegrated by true power. That's what we're doing. That is the work of the goddess right now. Pulling in these waves, so we're going to get far out. We're going to talk the wisdom, the metaphysics, pulling in these cosmic waves that are coming in of consciousness, holding them, and we can hold them when we have that vessel that can hold them. Then they go out into the horizontal and they start to dissolve things faster than we can even imagine. And at one point, it's all going to be, it's all going to shift, and it's coming. It's really coming very, very soon. So wishing you a really powerful new moon on Sunday. And there's always so much more to say. I'm going to get used to this new format and kind of how I'll prepare for it so that we can play. And I'm going to bring in all the themes that come in with the audio podcast into this video and align it with something really beautiful, the moon cycles, which are really about how we use the substance of the energy, how we create in our lives. We're all meant to be able to create everything that we need. Everything that we need. Don't believe that that's not possible. Do not believe it, because if you believe it, you'll be strapped to that. You'll be bound to that concept. Know the truth and embrace your power and embrace your tears and embrace your anger. As long as you're looking, you're doing the right thing. If you look, I can speak from, you look at something long enough, even if it's causing you pain, you keep looking at it, you keep vowing to do it. If it doesn't kill you, it will bring you more infinite love and happiness than you ever could have imagined. Make a vow to keep looking and to keep experiencing what's coming up, and to let it be it will eventually be its time. When it's your time, it will be gone. And then all of these forces that are working will just be, they're there, but they can't get to us in the same way. We lose that program. That program is no longer active. That program, the last thing. So the program that's running right now, the dark agenda and all of it, I'm kind of over talking about it right now. All of that depends on us not looking at our dark. That agenda is saying, connect with fear, connect with guilt, connect with all of those things, but don't really look at what you need to see about yourself, because if you do, just have some candy here, everything's easy access, you can get it here, there. Don't look and you'll be okay. We'll take care of you. Lies. Look at your stuff, and then that program will, you won't need to medicate, for one. If you don't need the candy, you're not going to be taking it. You're going to be going for the real pleasures of Taurus, the real pleasures of the earth that, like we said, they taste so much more sweet than the ones that we just take to try to stuff down the pain or try to like prolong the process. The real, when you really imagine taking a sip of that most amazing, perfect wine that that is so rare to come by, and you just all of a sudden you know that it's time has come, and you take a sip of it, and it's like that, what that one sip does is more alchemy, because it's at the right time, and it blends with you in the right way, and it's not about consuming, it's about understanding the magic that is in it. And then the physical pleasures become so much more when we understand the energy that they're built of, when we can see beyond the veil. And so I'm going to close out the session for today. Thank you for joining. I didn't really get the word out for live viewers so much this time. I think we'll get more live viewers as we go, but it doesn't matter, because it will be available on YouTube. And I look forward to wishing you a wonderful new moon in Scorpio. And I really look forward to doing this again. I'm getting excited to keep going every 2 weeks. So so look for the Shannon Port channel and the Art of the Feminine Facebook page to get the alerts for when the videos are. And so I will sign off for now, wishing you many, many blessings and lots of love. See you soon.